Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, and welcome to another special Between Takes episode of Missing Frames. I'm your host, Shawn Eastridge. We're continuing our 2020 Atlanta Film Festival coverage over here. I spoke with Deepak Sethi, a television writer, comedian, and now a filmmaker, about his short film Coffee Shop Names. So essentially the premise is 3 Indian coworkers give coffee shop names to baristas because their real names are too difficult to pronounce. But what they do is they imagine the lives that their coffee shop names personas might lead. Like, one of them is a firefighter and another one owns an independent bookshop and randomly breaks into song and dance numbers. It's amazing, and it's also pretty incredible that this is Deepak's first time in the directing chair. So we chat a little bit about the challenges of directing your first film and how it's important to really just be honest with your crew. And he was very lucky to be surrounded by really, really great talent. And they were very supportive, and he was very open to all the ideas, suggestions, and advice they had. We also discussed shooting the different fantasy sequences, which are all just, again, so funny and so creative. And then we talk a little bit more about some future project ideas and other things that Deepak is looking into. So the conversation was an absolute blast. I can't wait to see what he does next, and I hope you enjoy listening.
Now available to own on video cassette.
Well, Deepak, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I want to say I was looking you up and learning a little bit more about you because, first of all, I loved this movie. I thought it was so funny. And I was like, I got to learn more about Deepak. And you may hate me for this, but I stumbled upon the heckling video, the infamous heckling video, which I think is legendary now. Would you call it legendary? I'll call it legendary.
I was so during that set, as I was doing the set, I was like, oh, this is a bad set. Like, it's not going well. And I said, I really hope something happens. Like, I
So
really,
the heckler was a good
my
thing.
brain, I did not think it was going to be someone heckling, but I was like, oh, I hope, I hope something sort of breaks for me in this set, because it's Las Vegas. It was an early show, and sometimes early shows in Las Vegas aren't the greatest because, people are just starting their nights. And but yeah, no, someone heckled me, and it turned out to be pretty decent, at the end of that. It was a learning experience for all of us, and it was fun to.
It's a work of art, man. It's a work of art. I encourage anyone listening, go find it. Deepak Sethi, go look it up. It's perfect, but it'll give you good content. I feel like people coming into this, they need some context. They need to know who you are. That's a good introduction to you.
But by the way, just on the heckling thing, just so that people know, I was doing a set and someone yelled and basically insinuated that I was a terrorist.
Yeah.
And I'm Indian, and and that was the sort of exchange. I was like, whoa, what the, so then that's basically it. So
that's how it all started.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. But this is your first time directing, and I just want to know more about your background. You've been working in television. You worked on shows like Family Guy and stuff like that, and kind of working your way through the industry and working your way and learning the ropes of writing. When did you decide, I want to make a short film? And then how did Coffee Shop Names become that project where you're like, let's do this?
I think I've been in animation, writing animation for about 10 years. And I decided that I wanted to do live action because I was really intrigued by breaking out of animation. Not breaking out, so I love doing it, but it was really kind of intriguing to say, okay, I'm going to work in live action. And so I said, I really wanted to try my hand at directing something I wrote. And this opportunity came along through a basically Script House, which is a program that allows you to get funding. And I was really fortunate that they picked my script and gave me some money that allowed me to shoot it. And then I got to do it the way that I wanted. It was a dream come true, once you have a script that you like and a script that you want to direct, you start to hope that things break for it in a way that would work. So we got a cast that, a first-time director having a cast like I had, you learn from your cast. They tell you, you should do this, you should do that. I was asking them. I said, please give me some information how to do this. And so to answer your question, I really was hoping to have a chance at directing. It's not it's not easy, when you're, even for someone like myself, I've been working in the industry for 10 years. It's not every day that you get a chance to direct something. So like for us to, for a program like that to come along and allow me to do it, it's amazing. So yeah, I'm really thankful for that opportunity, but it's hard to do. Now you can do it a lot, like a lot of scrappy filmmakers will, make something for no money. And, I guess I was so comfortable and like that I didn't really want to do it that way. So, if I'm admitting that, I'd say that's probably why this opportunity was so great.
And I think like in terms of the script, honestly, because it's so short, but the amount of character and jokes and like just it's so on point and it's rapid fire, and you manage to get this really fun, engaging story in there with these great punchlines. And how did TV writing kind of train you for that? Because you've done a lot of comedies. What is the biggest thing you've taken from that experience when you applied it to the script you were writing?
First of all, thank you for saying that. I think with television writing, what happens is you're rewriting constantly, right? So you're always rewriting. And, as it moves, each episode moves along the conveyor belt, you're trying your hardest to sort of throw as much jokes as you possibly can without impacting the story structure, which is the hardest part. And I think I did that up until like I was lucky because, as a director, you get to sort of throw in the lines like on another take, on another take. Then I was also very fortunate that, I had actors who were funny and they brought their own ad libs. Like Karan Soni, who's a wonderful actor, he came prepared with ad libs lines. He was like, "Oh, let me try this." I said, yeah, please do, because the more you get of that in editing, you go, "Oh, wow, this joke could pop more if I added this." And so that was the part of television writing that really helped me out. Now, the part that didn't help me out was in animation. If something isn't working in post, you just draw another you draw another background, or you draw, you just go, okay, we're just going to change it. Whereas, you shoot something, it's in the can, and you have to use the pieces that you shot, and there's no extra stuff to do in post. So for me, television was, the learning curve of, okay, now we have this all, so try to make it as funny as possible when you're shooting it. But television writing, in general, is such a strong teacher because you have to let go. You cannot sit there and hope for this thing to be the best. And one thing you learn in TV writing is sometimes the scripts that you think are the worst are the ones that fans and people love the most. And you're like, oh my God, I thought that was not the best episode at all. And, people do like that. So that's another thing you have to do is just go, okay, it's out in the world and hopefully it does what it does. And we'll see what happens if people embrace it or not.
I guess in terms of the biggest challenges with directing, what was the thing that surprised you the most? Like coming to set and just being like, oh my God, I was not expecting to have to deal with this or that, or like, if it just feels like no matter how prepared you are, there's always something that, whether it's like, oh, we thought it was going to be sunny today, it's raining, or whatever it is, the lighting just doesn't work, you can't get the right setup. What was the thing that just kind of completely was like, oh, all right, day one, I got to figure this out?
It's funny you say that. I got some good advice from very well-respected directors and people who have helped me along the way. And one of the pieces of advice that were very common that I was getting was just go with it, because what'll happen is whatever's going on will sort of find its way into the thing, and that's great. And the coffee shop that we use, that was the hardest part, like because the coffee shops don't close. They're always open. And you can't even shoot really late at coffee shops because they open at like 6 in the morning, something crazy like that. So it was very hard for us to get a coffee shop. Now I teach at a college, and in the college there was a coffee shop, and I said, well, there's no way they're going to let us. It's a whole college thing, and
Right.
and eventually we ran out of options, and so we just had to ask them. And my wonderful producer was just really great at asking people for things, and she got them to agree. And so for a long time we thought, well, we probably don't have a coffee shop to shoot a film that's called Coffee Shop Names. That's a bad problem. But then it was right there. It was
Just
sitting.
add it in post. Add it in post.
Yeah,
That's in the budget.
They're at a coffee shop, and then we could just have people dialogue. Oh, this is a great coffee shop. It's so weird that it doesn't look like one, but it's always like, just constantly just address that. I think that's one thing that was I was freaking out about a company move because I had felt the guilt of writing too many locations in a 7-minute short, and I was like, oh my God, how's the company, like the whole production gonna move, from one place to another in LA, and I was freaking out about that. And not freaking out, but just in my mind going like, oh, well, I don't know if that's gonna work out because of the traffic here. But everything worked out when you surround yourself with very competent and very talented people who are good at their jobs. You start to go, oh, well, they got it.
Yeah. Well, how long did you shoot? Like, how long was the shoot? Because I mean, the coffee shop is one location. That's the primary location.
Yeah.
And you have multiple How long did it take to shoot? Because it's no longer than 7 minutes, but I imagine something like that could take up to a week or even longer.
It took 3 days. We shot 3 days. We did
Wow.
fully at the coffee shop, but then 2 days we moved because we were doing those sort of imaginations. But initially in the script, we were burning a house down, which immediately out. And you asked about TV writing. That's another one, like scratching that out. But yeah, no, I mean you have that, and it's such a quick thing that you also it's funny to admit this, but at some point you're gonna go, I hope the cameras are recording this. Like even the dumbest thing, you're going, oh, I hope that, I hope this is the record button's on, like.
And it's after the fact. It's like, all right, it's a 10-minute Alfonso Cuarón shot. And at the end of it, you're like, cut. Oh, we were rolling, right? Right.
And obviously it's like such a great DP that I don't have to worry about that. But at some level, as humans, you just go, oh, I hope that, it's recorded. But I was taught to ask dumb questions. And I think a lot of times people come and approach this like, oh my God, I have to pretend I know everything, because if I don't, then no one will have confidence in me. But I was like, well, all of these people know so much more about their jobs than I do about my job. This is my first time doing this as a director, but the lighting people know lighting way more than I would ever know about directing. So why not ask them, hey, what's something that maybe I should know? And I started to ask that throughout my crew in every department. Said, hey, what do you think I should know? And then having like someone like Danny Pudi, who's this fantastic actor who's been in like hundreds of episodes of television, working with so many directors. I literally told Danny, I said, hey, think of all the good directors you work with. Like, what do they have in common? And so I'll learn from you telling me what you are doing. And he would tell me, he would say, they do. And then so that was great because I would be able to check in and say, Danny, am I doing this right? Like, is this how you're, because he knows, like those actors are so talented and so experienced that they understand. So if you're going to come to set and sort of bullshit them, like sort of pretend more than you do, they're going to sniff that out immediately. And then there's trust. And I think the more important thing is to be honest and say, look, I don't know a lot of these things. And I was just worried that the record button wasn't on. So
well, I think that's true. I think a lot of times, people who love film and are on the outside and haven't made many films themselves, they think of it as like, you have a Scorsese or a Spielberg or, oh my God, clearly they knew what they were doing. And there are some filmmakers out there who would totally lie to you. And then, but I don't think those two examples I use, and I know David Fincher said this as well. He's like, oh, no, it's a mess. The whole process is a mess. And it makes me happy to hear that, because I feel like I've heard a lot of directors say that, it's like, it's not about going in there and just being a complete like dick. You have to go in there with an open mind, and you have to be willing to collaborate. But it sounds like that was pretty much your experience, as you really were like, teach me.
Well, take a look at yourself. Like you're a big fan of film, right? And you know what you like in film, what you don't like in film. That core competency is really important. And when you go and do your first film, if you do a film, you're basically going to go out there and remove that core competency and say, well, I'm going to be this, the competency you don't have, you focus on. Whereas what's really magical is the fact that you have this great taste. And so you're saying, let me just focus on that. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I'll just focus on that part. That part I can control. I know what I think is funny, and I know what I think is not funny. So I'll just focus on that. And I'll let the people around me on my team do the things that they're so good at. So like, I'm not going to sit there and wonder what light we're using to get this specific thing. That's not my, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing anyways. I'm going to look at like, hey, is this line the best way? I'm going to work with my actors. I'm going to do the things that I can control and let, talented people do the rest, and trusting them is really important. So it's also who you hire. Like I started with this great producer Valerie Steinberg, she's so fantastic at hiring. And so that when I'm on set, I just know all of these people are just very good at what they do. So yeah, I know asking questions is amazing. Like it really does help you, because what you do is you start to learn from people who are so passionate. Like we had a choreographer on our set, and I have no idea about
right. And by the way, to the audience, there's a dance number in this, because why not? It's your first film. It's a short film. Why not have a dance, a burning building, a dance routine? Why not? Just throw it all in there.
Yeah, and you just learn, and you start to go, oh wow, you know what? You're working with people who have dedicated their lives to their passion. So why not just like listen to them? And I think that was really helpful, and I learned a lot from everything. I was like, oh, that's why they do this, and oh, that's why they do that. So like a little film school in a way.
Was there any other job that you were like, if I wasn't directing this, this is, I think, what I would love to do?
Like a job on the set, or job?
Yeah, like director of photography. Is there any role that you saw yourself in where you were thinking like, that might be fun to try out someday, or where you're like, nope, directing's good, I'm good with that?
Oh, the directing is great. There's a couple of roles that I looked at on my set, and I said, wow, those people deserve so much more credit than they get. Like sound. You're holding a boom constantly. Your arms, you're basically following. You're doing this amazing job. Make sure you don't have any shadows on your mic. You're trying to get the audio. And at the end of a take, it's always like, let's go to the cameras. Let's look at how it looked. And really, at the end of the day, if the audio isn't there, we got nothing anyway. And the sound person's basically saying, oh, we had an airplane that had so we do that take, and everyone's celebrating this great take. And, they're the ones who have to tell you like, hey, the sound. So, at the beginning, I told the sound person, I said, you're just as important as the DP, because you are. If the sound isn't there, we're a mess. We can't ADR all this stuff. So you're going to have to tell me. And I think that, sound is never considered the same, but it's really, really difficult. And I have a lot of empathy for people who do it, because it's hard to do really well.
I had to hold a boom mic up for maybe a 30-minute interview, and it is exhausting. It's exhausting. Just in that little bit of experience, I gained so much respect, and you realize, like, especially like steady cam operators, like our camera operators, but boom operators, you realize why they're so built, because you have to have that strength to hold that boom pole for however many takes and however long, like a 10-hour day. It's exhausting. But
it is.
So it seems like, so coffee shop names, the inception of it, obviously you kind of were like, well, I can sense the germ of the idea is you yourself going into a shop and being like, nobody knows how to say Deepak. What is this? And then saying, that's a funny idea for like a sketch, like something like that. I feel like that. When did you make the jump into coming up with, like, was it an easy jump to be like, well, what if I just showcased like, oh, Deepak is Derek, and Derek is an airline pilot? Like, how easy was it to make that leap creatively to showcase their imaginations of what their fake names would be?
I started doing it on stand-up. Like if I was in between a bit, I would ask the audience, what's your Starbucks name? I thought that was funny, because I would get a laugh out of whatever their name was, And so that to me made me laugh, because you hear these people who have relatively easy to pronounce names, and they still have Starbucks names. And I thought that was funny, because it was more of a persona. Like I'm so intrigued by the moment that you have to choose your online name for something. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, I'll just put this, but then I go like, wait, let's stop for a second. Why did you choose that name? Why are, like, because then you start realizing in their mind, they think they're like some warrior or something like that they've used, And so you start to sort of tap in on like their secret dreams and stuff like that. And I think that's funny, because we never have a moment where we just stop and we go, why did you pick that alias? That's not you at all. And I think that's really funny that we always pick these aliases, because like, it goes, let me just preface this by saying I never thought of this while writing it, but now I look back and I start going, oh, we live in this world of aliases where, you don't have any sort of accountability for what you say online, but it's shielded by this anonymous alias.
Right.
And it's like a superhero in a way. You get to go and beneath the cloak of night, just trash people, and then come back and live your life and pretend that you're a good person. But really, what
Right.
you're doing is just destroying someone
Mm.
that you just barely had some sort of negative reaction to some of their work or whatever it is, or a restaurant you went to that didn't give you enough ponzu sauce, and now you're like, bam, let me get them, with my avatar that no one knows it's me. But really, at the end of the day, what are we doing except sort of exercising an element of ourselves, a sort of a sleeve of who we are. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think with coffee shop names, we tend to do that, and we tend to sort of have an attachment to our coffee shop names. And so I think it's just an interesting sort of way to do it. And I said, oh, for a short film, it's good. I think for something longer, it might be harder to do, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where it came from.
So who are you? Are you a Scott? Are you a Rachel? Which persona do you are you the airline pilot, or are you the one with the independent bookshop dancing around?
I think I'm all three of them in a way, but really to me, I actually used Derek, and really they did change the name one day, and I wrote Derek 2 R's and DK.
I love that you were so into it that you were like, no, it's DEREK.
Yeah.
How dare you? Like, that's how committed you are with it.
Yeah, and then I realized, why am I upset? I wasn't, by the way, just for people at home, I wasn't like actually upset, like outwardly. I was just in my mind, though, like, oh, I'm not a Derek with 2 R's. I'm a Derek with a DEREK. Like, that's the fake persona I've been using for 20 years. How did they mess that up for me? I mean, not 20 years, I just like
I
something
was
else.
gonna say
Like,
that this is the commitment to the bit is perfect. Just commit. Say yes. 20
yeah,
years I've been doing it.
yeah. I can't even drink coffee at that time. But yeah, you're basically you're saying that you're attached to this persona, and it's funny. It's funny that we're attached to these things, and I think that was the whole point. And yeah, pilot, because I always thought back in the day pilots were like so friendly, they would talk to people, and now you never see them. You see
Yeah.
them maybe at the end. And so I'm like, oh, this pilot would just be someone to talk to people. He'd come out and he'd be like, how's everyone doing? Like that pilot. Like, we don't have
Like
those
going down the aisles and
yeah, high fives up and down. We're gonna have a great flight. I think I'd be freaked out if that happened now. I'd be like, oh my god.
I would not blame you. I would be too. Which one was the most fun to shoot? Like, which one? I imagine. I mean, it's all exhausting, but when you were finally able to cut it together, was there one you were able to be like, "That's pretty cool that we were able to pull that off"?
I think the fire was fun. I thought it was gonna be harder than it was. Having a fire in the middle of the day and all that. But the dance was just so like amazing to do. I love musicals, like you said, that watching a musical is important, right? To see it, and then I think that was just so much fun to do, to actually see the people that put in the work, the choreographer, the dancers, like just everyone just do it. Qasr Muhammad, who plays Rachel, her coffee shop name Rachel, she sang that song, she danced, she learned how to sort of do the moves, and she did it all. And so for me, it was very I just sat back and watched the screen. It's like, oh great.
I noticed in terms of pacing, I noticed like you had to speed up some of it. Was there like a part of you that was like, damn, I wish I could have had this whole thing in there? And then by extension, was there anything else you had to cut out that you really wish you could have kept in the film?
That was the darling, when Killing Your Darlings, that was the one where
Yeah.
I was like, I wish I didn't have to forward it, but it just felt very much like it wasn't it was a little too long for like the pattern that I was trying to go for. But yeah, it was such a great thing to have that all done and all be there. It was just it was the only thing that we had to cut down. I wish I had more of Karan Sony's jokes, because he brought so many of them, but it was like, it would have just went so long on that side. And then Anders Holm from Workaholics, who's such a fantastic actor. He gave me so much stuff that's really funny. I didn't get to use all of it, but it was great to just watch him work.
And was this something where you thought sometimes people will make a short film as the means, it almost as a stepping stone? Like sometimes somebody will take a scene from a script they've written, like a feature, and they'll make a short and they'll say, hey, they'll
Mhm.
kind of use it as a selling point or like a pitch or a calling card to be like, look, I can direct. How about we make this into a feature? Did you have that in mind when you were making this? Were you thinking, oh, because obviously it's very self-contained and it's obviously a one-off sketch, but was there a part of you that was thinking, I want to make this partially not only to prove myself as a director, but maybe to expand this into something else, like maybe take these characters and do something else with them, like an Office type thing? Or was there anything in the back of your mind like that? Or I guess this is a long way of asking, what are your plans? Do you want to do more directing? Do you want to do features and things like that? And where are you planning on going next?
Well, no, you know what's funny? It was sort of a little bit I had on my stand up, and then it's turned into a short. So I never really thought of it as more than that. But as I sort of reflect on it and started writing sort of ideas, I mean, what would be kind of interesting is if those three Indian people who are the people in the short had used that coffee shop as sort of like a WeWork space. Like I think that's kind of interesting. So that was an idea that was sort of talked about that I thought was kind of interesting. But then another way to do it would be to take one person, because I've had this as well,
Mm.
and take all of their coffee shop names, because I have more than Derek. I don't want to brag. I have Dennis sometimes. Every once in a while, if I'm feeling down,
Nice, nice.
I got that. And so then I would just say it'd be funny if you take one person and you show their lives as they went through the coffee shop names. You know,
Like
not
living the dual lives.
Dennis.
Like a Scanner Darkly, where you think you're living one life and you're actually living another life.
Yeah, like Walter Mitty, to me, that was where like I was like, oh, if it's a little bit of Walter Mitty, then that's great, because Walter Mitty was so much more about this imagination that sort of popped in and out of it. I thought that was great. But one person having different coffee shop names throughout their life could be funny if you really do it that way. But no one's gonna take that seriously, because it's like a coffee shop name. But what if you did it kind of seriously? I was going through this when I had Dennis, and then I was like this when I was Derek.
This just occurred to me. I didn't even think to ask you this beforehand. What would my coffee shop name be, but flip it? Give me an Indian name. We've only known each other. We've been talking for 30, 40 minutes. What do you think,
Well,
based
you
on our short conversation?
seamlessly moved go to India, because Shawn, Shaan, that's a popular name.
Perfect.
So you're already
That was
there.
planned. I planned it that way.
You're already there. Although I don't know how much coffee you're drinking in India. Yeah, I feel like Shawn is a really. There's a couple of Indian names that are so perfectly like Dave. Dave Patel is like Dave, which is DEV, and that's Dave. So that kind of works. Jay Preet is Jay. Shawn, Shaan, Shawn. So you
Right.
got all that. You're ahead of the curve. I think your parents did a great job in the casting department.
I'll tell them you said that. So, what do you want to do next? I mean, like more directing, more writing. Like, what are your next projects? What do you have lined up?
Yeah, I want to continue to write things that are interesting to me. I like things that are in the zeitgeist. I feel like I love characters that are underdogs, that are scrappy, and I love characters that are underdogs that are going through tough times. So I feel like the next thing I write is going to be coming out of the pandemic. What happens in this world of new. For me, the pandemic served as a catalyst for the characters that are all of us. Like this was the sort of moment where we reflect on our lives and we go, what can we do coming out of this? So I feel like you're going to see a lot of stories that are characters that are coming out of this thing, and what do they do differently? Are they discovering their passion? Are they trying to do something that's different for the first time? Or have they self-reflected in a way? That to me is where I'm interested in that.
I love that. Yeah.
I also like Indian characters, South Asian characters. I feel like have this. Our stories haven't really been told as much, and so I want to tell those stories. And also, like, I'm Canadian, so I love the Canadian accents. I'd love to find a character that can sound like many of the people I grew up with. I think that's my dream.
Dude, I'd love to see that. That's a great idea too. And you feel like my eyes, I can already feel them glazing over whenever I read a story about, like, I think Anne Hathaway is going to star in the new Netflix pandemic inspired film or something like. So I'm just kind of like, oh my God. But that pitch right there, that to me sounds so much fun in such a like natural, organic way without having it be like, oh, it's now the hip new thing to do. But I love that idea.
Yeah, like I remember hearing so for example, someone told me like they're an accountant. They've been an accountant for like 10 years and now they want to practice magic. And I said, only the pandemic can cause that shift. And that's to me so intriguing because now someone has told me like, oh, their dream has literally been to be a magician and they just never figured out. And then the world sort of stopped for a second and they said, oh, I want to be a magician. So I'm always intrigued by like near death experiences because I think near death experiences gives you this like 360 sort of rotational camera around your life. And you're just going, oh, wow, I should have done that. And this sort of allowed us to all sort of have that sort of reflection point. And you go, oh, I wanted to do this. And I wasted my time doing this. And so to me, coming out, all these stories are going to be so interesting. Hopefully writers from across the world who didn't even realize they wanted to write would have used this to say, oh, I'm going to write my story. And now we get this influx of like authentic stories. I mean, I hope that that's the way it goes.
Last question for you. So my podcast, Missing Frames, we watch all the movies we should have seen by this point in our lives. What is the movie you need to have seen that you still haven't, but it's on your watch list?
That's a good one. I just watched $1 Million Baby for the first time.
I still haven't. I haven't seen it. How was it?
God. Oh, really? Do you like Shawshank Redemption?
I do. Love it.
I love Shawshank. And so, yeah, well, it was on Netflix and I said, oh my God, I might be the only one that has seen this. I got to watch this. So I watched it. I was like, oh, wow. And it has this like element of Shawshank in it. It's got like that sort of the same sort of level of storytelling. It was interesting.
That's high praise. Shawshank is like, it's high up there.
Yeah. Well, I think $1 Million Baby might have won the Oscar. I have no idea. I don't remember. But
it did. It did. You're right. It has that on Shawshank because Shawshank didn't win anything. The $1 Million Baby. We just figured it out. $1 Million Baby, I think, is the greatest movie ever made. Did we just decide that?
And then there's a movie. I'm sorry, this doesn't answer your question, but this is the Kajillionaire, which I'm so excited to watch. Miranda July, who I love. I love Miranda July. I think she's such a fantastic writer. She's one of those people who you're just amazed by because she's like, okay, I did a film. I'm just gonna write a novel now. And then she writes a novel and it's great. And you're like, oh, and then she's like, I'm just gonna write a book of short stories. And you're like, wait, you could just do that? That's cool.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
that's the dream,
like,
man.
A big budget film and she does Kajillionaire. And I was like, oh wow, just fantastic. That's the type of thing where, I've heard an interview of her and she said that she wants to be a newbie at whatever she's doing, like constantly over and over again. And so that's why she's like, I'm going to be a novelist new to this. I'm going to be new to the big budget film. I'm going to be new to independent film. I'm like, that is so cool. I mean, it's awesome.
Well, Deepak, I really hope you stick and like do more writing, do more directing, because I'd love to see what else you have in that head of yours. Let's get that COVID drama comedy out there. Let's do it.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.